All right, we're going to get this going. In spirit of the name of this title, Need for Speed, we're going to talk about instant gratification, reciprocity, because I feel like this needs to be said. I feel like we need to have this talk because there are these horrible takes coming from big names trying to pinpoint instant gratification as this character flaw that you need to overcome in order to be successful. And I think it's totally backwards. It's wrong for so many reasons. The first is just, it's obvious, guys. We live in a totally different world now. This isn't medieval times. Things move fast now. When we live in prime time for the sort of hunter archetype to really capitalize and make these massive moves. Like you got guys day trading in the fast moving markets. Guys are tossing up Facebook ads and overnight they're pulling $1,000 days. We see these other guys, they're ripping these high dopamine six-figure launches. These are tight feedback loops. When you put out an ad, you're instantly getting feedback. Something is instantly happening. You're not shipping away into the ether for decades. Like within hours, you're seeing clicks, add to carts, sales, impressions. And back when I had my ecom store, here's exactly how it went down with my ecom store. I was driving and I had this idea of just like a hoodie I wanted. It combined some elements of trending fashion at the time with some elements of sportswear. So I pulled over, wrote down the idea, went back home, went online to see if that sort of hoodie style existed. It did not. So I hit up a friend of mine, paid him $20 to render some designs on Photoshop. He sends them over to me. I watched one YouTube video of how to set up a Shopify store. I uploaded those designs onto some hoodies and backpacks. I spent $20 on an Instagram shout out from a theme page, and then I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning with $500 in sales. And by the end of the day, it was $850. So in the span of one day, 24 hours, took an idea that popped in my head while I was driving, set up a store, bought a shout out, started making sales. One day. And I want to highlight that we live in a accelerated reality now. Things move faster, things are innovating faster, people are bouncing around from job to job faster. I mean, it's crazy out there. Like 3 years is now considered a long time being at a job, whereas in past generations, like 10, 15, 20 years was a long time. And I think because of this accelerated reality that we're now in, people are totally valid in their natural adaptation to desiring these tighter feedback loops, what people are calling instant gratification as this bad thing. I think people are just staying congruent to the times. Things are moving faster. And I think the other aspect of it is faith, because there's less faith in traditional paths. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, and people want to see gradual bits of evidence and progress with these tighter feedback loops while on the journey. So the desire for instant gratification is totally normal. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean the end result appears overnight. But if you're putting something out there, if you're sending cold emails, if you're putting out an offer, if you're doing something, something should be happening. You should be getting replies, activity, some sort of movement should be happening. And if we look at human nature, this is how things have always worked. If you start talking to a potential romantic partner, you should be seeing something, some form of reply, some form of reciprocity immediately, some sort of activity, even if it's a no. Something is happening. So, this notion of think in decades, delay the ask, give, the law of reciprocity, just keep posting into the void for years to then eventually start seeing something. Come on. That just goes against human nature. That's not how things work. Especially if you're a hunter archetype, if you like those tighter feedback loops. It's almost, I see it almost as borderline gaslighting to tell people, no, just keep chipping away at it and seeing no results. It just goes against human nature. And building up imaginary nice points, like, by the way, this is really important. Building up imaginary nice points with goodwill, if you have the intention of trying to cash in on that later, that's a manipulation tactic. That's not a business model. Like, let's go back to nature. That's the textbook definition of what being in the friend zone is. It's just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and never getting anything back. And if we peel back the onion a bit here, what I suspect is happening is a deep sense of shame and operating at a deficit from all this hustle culture success porn glamorizing financial success and putting it on a pedestal. Like let's not glamorize it. Let's do the opposite. Let's downplay it. Success in business is simply supplying demand at a profit. You don't need to build up imaginary nice points with fake reciprocity and manipulation tactics. You don't need to post into the void for decades to earn your stripes, to eventually pick up 12 followers in 5 years. This might sound crazy, but you can actually go to people, state your intentions, say what you do, and say what you have to offer. Supplying demand. Like you can go up to a girl, you can give her a compliment, and say you would like to take her on a date sometime. You don't need to weasel your way into there, trying to be her friend first, and then trying to spring up this surprise ambush, cashing in on your nice points and saying, hey, I actually want to date. It's not real. It's not authentic. Like imagine some guy at the gym, he gives you free samples of his hoodies and his keychain. He started a gym clothing brand. And every time you see him in the gym, he's all nice to you, he gives you compliments, he likes talking to you. If his product is not good, if you don't like it, if you're not in that target market, you're never going to buy from his store. You can't reciprocity your way into a sale. You can't reciprocity your way into a relationship. Got to have a good product. And wealth takes time and patience, but money is fast. Money likes speed. So, this notion of just waiting for eternity and chipping away at something without seeing any results, it just doesn't make sense. It's exactly like what I tweeted a little bit earlier. All these guys that say, do one thing forever, if you look at their track record, they were jumping ship every 1 to 2 years into a bigger opportunity vehicle. Like in the example I tweeted, started as a personal trainer, then became a successful gym owner, then starts showing other people how to be successful gym owners in person, then shows other people how to be successful gym owners with an online program, then shows other people with online programs how to be successful business owners. Jumping ship constantly into a bigger opportunity vehicle every 1 to 2 years. So let's not wait. Money likes speed. You don't got to post into the void forever and hope for something to happen. You don't have to reciprocity your way with manipulation tactics. Are those things helpful? Of course. But we cannot reciprocity our way into making a sale. We cannot reciprocity our way into relationships. And I think people are valid in their desires for these tighter feedback loops. What some are blaming as instant gratification, something that you need to get rid of. Maybe that works for a sort of farmer archetype, where you kind of chip away at something and you plant seeds every day. I think some people are built like that. And I think for a long time, the sort of hunter archetype was outcast. Something is wrong with you, they said. No. We live in a timeline now where the hunter archetype can capitalize. You can wake up every day, push some buttons, and make things happen. Tight feedback loops, lots of dopamine. Now, this is why in sales, you have some killers in the small business space, and then they move their way up to mid-market, and then they get to enterprise, potentially even federal. The sales cycle with like some of these federal clients is insane. It's not even sales anymore, because when you're in the small business sales game, the feedback loops are pretty tight. Like every week you can be making a sale, sometimes even every day. I see David Mendez is here. Like me and David, we would be on the phone. Like sales are coming in every day. You get those fun little dopamine spikes all the time. But when you go to the enterprise level, it could be 3 years before you see a sale. And at that point, it's a different skill set. That I don't even know if it's sales at that point. It's more so deal making and networking. And I think it's for a different archetype. And the hunter archetype, I think that those tight feedback loops are needed. So when people are saying instant gratification is a bad thing, and that you need to sterilize yourself and just chip away at something seeing no results, that just goes against human nature. That's not how things work. Now, the ideal scenario, if you want to be really good, is can you satisfy that hunter archetype with those dopamine hits every day while also building something that has exit value? And that's something we could talk about in the future. But that's it for today. Instant gratification is not a bad thing, especially if you're a hunter archetype. You cannot reciprocity your way into success. It's a manipulation tactic if you're artificially doing it to try to cash in on those nice points with some sort of ambush.